Alive on the moon. Charo, it's on the pen alive. With your host David Knapp.
Thank you, Claptrack, and happy Thursday night. I told you we weren't going to do this tonight. Earlier in the week, we did an Eli Lilly earnings call, and I said no Friday night or no Thursday night live tonight. No on the pen on Thursday. That was going to be it. But darn it, I can't stay away from you. I wish I could quit you. YouTube. How's everybody doing tonight? I don't have a show planned at all for you. We're just going to kick it and converse. Let me know if just hanging out tonight for a few minutes sounds good. Can I hear? Does that sound good to y'all? All right. Sounds good. We'll do that then. How's everybody doing tonight? Happy Thursday. Dink, Sabrina, Tanya, Dee, Judy, Deborah, Carla, Valerie, Mimi. How are you, Mimi? Good to have you all here tonight. It's good to see you all in the chat tonight. We did a great earnings call earlier this week. Let's see you walking on here. Yeah. So, hey, Brent, how are you tonight? Yeah, this is a very, very informal hangout time. So welcome to On the Pen. I'm Dave Knapp, man on the Manjaro. That's why I'm here. You are on the pen. Wegovy, Saxenda, Victoza, Trulicity, Manjaro, Zepbound, that pen. That's what we do here. We talk about life on the pen. We talk about all the news. Glad Brent's doing well. So we weren't going to do this, and now we are. I figured I owed you a little bit of time because this week I got a walking treadmill for my desk. I have to put it together yet. It's sitting over here in the corner of my office. So thank you all for the super chats. We didn't quite get to cover the cost, but I figured we'd probably get there by the end of the month because we had some very generous donations from some great penners. So thank you all for contributing to the cause on this Heart Month, a cause that is very near and dear to my heart. Lost my dad to a massive heart attack back in 2012. My, how time flies. That brings me into my first random topic. Let's talk about does anybody want to talk about something random? So I'm going to tell you all a story, a personal story. And I did share a little bit of this on TikTok this week. But as you might know, I'm quite a spiritual guy, very spiritually in tune. And I think that one of the interesting things that I had experienced going back years ago, and this is like one of those stories that you're going to have to hang with me on. But so let's backtrack back in about 2011, right? I had a couple strange encounters with owls, of all things. Owls. Yes, you heard that right. The bird owls. So the way that I recall, and actually it first started back in 2010, right? So I'm sitting in my car and I'm looking out the window, and up on the perch on this big branch in my backyard is this massive owl. And I'm like, wow, that is a big owl. I look out my window to my right and I see a little ground squirrel laying on the ground, sort of seizing out. I see this owl swoop down, grab this little chipmunk, and fly back up to his perch. We're way off the GLP-1 topic, so you gotta hang with me. And I remember in that moment thinking, I don't know why, but it feels like what I just observed was like profound, like it had a deeper meaning than what I had just observed. Again, I'd never had any weird experiences like this before. So the owl grabs the chipmunk. I'm like, that's weird. And it was so notable that at the time I kept a journal. And in this journal, I wrote down what I had experienced. And I was having some interesting dreams at the time, as I recall as well. So anyways, a couple days later, my grandma passes away. And so it was some time before I went back and kind of thought, connected the two, but I thought that what I had witnessed with that chipmunk being at the end of its life, kind of struggling as my grandma was, she suffered from Parkinson's disease, and that ultimately took her life. And I felt like it was maybe some sort of omen, or maybe some sort of supernatural communication from God, or from just a intuition, right? So fast forward about a year and a half, a year and 3/4, and we lived in a real rural area. And I'm driving home at night, and I'm driving. It's late at night. This owl swoops down at my window, like comes all the way up, like almost like I'm locking eyes with the thing, right? And it's coming right at my window, and at the last second swoops up, and I miss it. So that was like a heart thumping experience, and I've already got this weird premonition about owls, right? Stick with me. Again, this has nothing to do with GLP-1s, but I'm going to bring it back to heart disease and why it's near and dear to me. So a couple weeks later, we had no kids at the time, and I go to take my dog out, my golden retriever, and we walk out. It's late at night. I'm not using any sort of substance that would make me see things. I walk out the front door. I look immediately down to my left, and there is a massive owl sitting on the ground right next to where I walk, and it doesn't flinch. I jump, the dog jumps, and I look back, and it's gone. And I immediately knew that seeing this owl that was there and went away was super significant, as I had just had that experience with that one swooping down. And I immediately went back to what happened with seeing the owl and then having my grandma pass away. And so the story kind of evolves from there. The next couple of days, I get a random phone call from a friend of my dad's who was with him on a Sunday morning. They were headed to church, and my dad had a massive heart attack. And his friend called me in a panic. He said, "Dave, your dad had a heart attack. He's down, and it's not good. And I need you to get here right away." And so he and my mom were separated at the time. So I went about the work of calling the whole family, calling everybody. We got to get there. We lived 45 minutes away from the town that my dad was in. So we all rushed back. 9 days in a coma, and we lost him. So on February 28th of 2012, we lost my dad to a massive heart attack. And so that has always, no pun intended, weighed heavily on me, as I've got 4 children of my own. And so my own health journey definitely, want to be around for a lot longer than my dad was around. I just think often about what he would think of the life that we have built and the children that we have. And so anyways, owls. To this day, I know if I see an owl, something crazy is going to happen. So that's the tying of the owl to Heart Week, to the treadmill, right? So thank you for providing the treadmill. Now I want to talk to you about something very similar that's been happening in the last 2 weeks that I hope that maybe some of you can shed some light on, or maybe have some insight into. So I started a new job, as many of you know, and I had to get that owl out of there. That freaks me out. I'm not even kidding. So I've been driving around the state, right? Now, I've lived in Iowa my whole life. We've lived in rural areas. There's an eagle. I like it, T. I've lived in Iowa my whole life. To go anywhere in Iowa, you're driving through rural areas. So there's a lot of rural driving. That's kind of a hard word to say, rural driving. So you see a lot of nature, right? In my whole life, and cumulatively, I've seen maybe 2-3 times I've seen bald eagles. just driving around. In the last 2 weeks, on about 5 different occasions while I've been driving, an eagle has flown from, I'm driving down the road, right? And it's flown from my left to my right over my vehicle. Like the timing is like the same just about every time. And I get home every day and I tell my wife, and I feel like I sound like a crazy person. Obviously she knows the stories about the owls and all that. But the stuff with the eagles is happening so frequently. And I feel like the eagle thing is a much, much better sign than the owl was, right? That there's something great that's going to happen. But like I took this video. I don't know if it's going to focus in on that. I told my wife, I was like, it's happening so frequently that I've been the last couple days keeping my phone at the ready so that, I don't know, there's no way you're going to see that. Sorry, I can post it later. But I actually caught it doing that yesterday afternoon, and because it was the second time it happened that day, because I texted her the first time. I was like, you're not going to believe it. Eagles are flying over my car again. And, I'm driving all over the state too, like one end to the other. And so eagles, I've been seeing eagles and having these eagle encounters, and it's very similar to when I was having the owl encounters. I feel like it's not the deep, dark omen that it was before with the eagle. So I don't know if any of you have ever had experiences like that or not before, but I don't know. What do we call this? Housekeeping or what's fresh? I'm not taking a similar route, actually, Brent. I'm in like different corners of the state when this happens. I've been in northern Iowa, I've been in southern Iowa, I've been in eastern Iowa, western Iowa, and it's happening all over the state. Now, it is the time of year for eagles to mate, so it's not, unheard of. But I'm telling you, the weird thing, Dink, that's kind of how I feel. Like it's the opposite. But what's weird, Brent, is the way that it flies right over my car. It's as if, like, right as I'm driving down the road, it's flying over me. That, like, every time, this is the encounter. And it's just absolutely, absolutely crazy. So, yeah, how about that to start the show tonight? So if you have a bird story, and honestly, if you knew me, it's kind of funny because I absolutely hate birds. So, more Dave Knapp stories. So when I was a kid growing up, we lived across the street from the school that was like 100 years old. And the attic of the school was a really big school. And the attic of the school was infested with bats. And so at night in the summertime, there would just be bats circling around the school, right? And so if we left, and I grew up 4 kids in our house too. So the door got left open, kids running in and out during the summertime. If the door was left open, a bat would get in, and occasionally it would get in, even with the door shut, it would get in through the chimney. So we dealt with bats in our house a lot of times as a kid. And so here's what set me off on the wrong foot with birds. And I realize birds and bats are different, but bats are just the grossest kind of bird, in my opinion. It may not be scientific. So I wake up one night, and I don't know about y'all, but this has been the same since I was little. I will wake up with the driest mouth in the middle of the night. So I would get up periodically, go catch a drink of water. And so I got up. It's the middle of the night. The house is pitch black because, my wife is very tender. So we leave like little lights on in the house in case the kids wake up in the middle of the night. That wasn't my old man. Like every doggone light in the house is on. Rah, 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 rah. That was my dad. So all the lights are off. I'm walking out to the kitchen and I feel this. And then I start to kind of like feel it on my face. I immediately recognize this as a bat. And so I run. I had turned the hall light on and I ran back into my room. Now my bedroom and the hallway was a wood floor. Between the wood floor, bats are birds. They have wings and they fly. That's birds. It's science, Brent. So I've got the door in the wood floor, and there's about, like a little gap there. The light's off in my room, but the light's on in the hallway. It's a bird, and you know it. All of a sudden, I run in my door, I run in my room, I slam the door, the light's peeking through in the bottom of the door, and I see this black figure, but come underneath the door, and then the next thing I know, that's right. Mimi said birds aren't real though. Yeah, they're always charging on the power lines. Bats are very real, or maybe they are a tool of the government, and maybe it was getting in my brain. So I'm in my bedroom, and this thing, now I'm trapped with it. The door shut, the lights off, and I'm telling you, it was at that point that it was game over for birds for me. So no, thank you, birds. Mammal. All right, let's go this way. Anything with wings freaks me out unless it's on a plate. So that's my story. Birds, bats, mammals, doesn't matter. They're all freaky to me, and that's my story.